Welcome everybody to AcoNight. Excuse me. Oh, late dinner. Oh, indigest. No. Welcome everybody to AcoNight, the debut episode of our Acolyte Aftershow. We are fired up because it's dark side time. Yeah, I know. We're the resistance. We're still the resistance. We'll always be TRB. But it's time to get a little sinister because, can I just say this? Jedi are a little boring.
Ooh, you're gonna make some people annoyed saying stuff like that.
In that era, it's just like no one's going to those parties. That's like Angela's Christmas party on The Office, you know.
You always use that as your example.
But anyway, thank you everybody for joining us on AcoNight. We are so excited to talk about the Acolytes episodes 1 and 2. I'm John. With me as always is Lacey Gillerin. Lacey, how we doing?
Good. I'm like, not to be lame and self-centered, but I am so proud of that video that I put together for the intro. I've been like hyped on it for a couple days now. It was something fun I did the other day. I've always had a dream of doing trailers ever since I was kind of in school, I guess, doing video stuff. So to get to do that for fun was like a blast. And I sent it to John and I was like, oh God. And I started to have like extreme imposter syndrome and was like freaking out that he was going to be like, it's terrible. But
when would I ever do that? This is the problem.
I don't.
Then
I'm not saying you would. I'm just saying I think that of myself. So I just assume that other people.
Yeah. All right. Well, it's great. And see, everyone in the chat seems to love it. And I'm sure everyone listening on audio loves it. So we have officially christened AcoNight. We are here to dive into the first 2 episodes of The Acolyte, which low-key, I guess, are titled Lost and Found, and Revenge and Justice. The first one written and directed by showrunner Leslie Headland, runtime 37 minutes if you shave off the little Star Wars intro and the credits, and the second one, runtime of 33 minutes, written by Jason McAuliffe and Charmaine DeGrate, and directed by also Leslie Headland. So this is going to be a bit like the Mando fan show, just with a different twist on it. We are announcing a brand new mystery giveaway contest that we'll be doing in a couple of segments. We have the Kel Naka scale ready to roll as we're going to rate both these episodes. It's all for Jonas there. That's why we're doing Kel Naka. But there's other stuff to get into first, Lacey. And that is, first of all, just thanking everybody for being here. If they are live in the chat, you and I have seen, just so everyone understands this, we've seen episodes 3 and 4 as well. We are not obviously talking about either of those. We are talking about this as if we've only seen episodes 1 and 2. So because of that, we can't speculate on episode 3. So I thought, instead of Ask the Resistance, we have people in the chat use hashtag Tell the Resistance and let us know what you think is going to happen in episode 3 of The Acolyte. And we'll read some of them later in the show with our best poker faces. Pop, 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 poker face.
I do want to say, though, that we didn't see episodes 1 through 4 until after our speculation show.
Correct.
Because I saw some people being like, oh, you guys just speculate. We totally did that episode on Thursday night. And then Friday morning woke up to screeners.
Yes.
So we totally went into that with no understanding of what was going to happen.
Timing. Yeah.
It was actually perfect. And it really made my day because it was a tough week. So thank you, Disney and Lucasfilm.
The predictions were.
Yes. How wrong I was about so many things. But...
me too, for sure.
Yeah.
But make sure you do like the video. If you are on social media and you see our posts, please share it to your followers. Let's try to pack the base here and get as many people as possible as we dive into these 2 episodes of this new dark side tale that takes place 100 years and then maybe 116 years before the Phantom Menace. It's time for the Sith to rise, and we are going to get after it here. So if you do want to support us and have your comments read on the show, we have super chats available. And Lacey, I do see there are a few already. So before we do the Kel Naka scale and rating these episodes, why don't we check in with those and see what the TRB community has to say?
Totally. And I do want to admit that I owe John a pizza. I know he was making a joke at the beginning. I didn't buy that pizza. I owe him one, which is funny because I actually had pizza tonight too. It was just that kind of night. So we both had pizza, but I didn't purchase yours. So per the rules, I will drive to the specific pizza place that we're both betting on, and then drive said pizza to John's house. What?
You're gonna drive all the way out there? Wow.
Yeah, that's what we bet on. You would have driven out there.
That's
right?
fine with me. I have a confession to make though, and I'm not Dave Grohl, but I did not have pizza tonight.
That's an old box.
It's an old box.
How old are we talking?
A couple days.
You kept the old box for the bit.
I kept it for the bit. That's how dedicated I am. I know. I gotta like wash my hands now. But anyway.
Ew, it probably smells so bad.
Yeah, I know. It's sitting here just for the bit. So it's like, yeah. Maybe I'll, before we went on air, you were talking about how you have flies in your room. I may start getting flies because I have this old pizza box here.
Yeah, I have flies because we had remodel. We're doing in the middle of a remodel. If I sound tired, and all the doors and stuff have been open, so bugs come in. So sorry.
Well, I won
Super
the bet.
chats.
I want to thank you for admitting that I won the bet.
You won fair and square.
Fair and square. But yeah, let's.
Yoda did not show up in a trailer. That was the bet. The bet was not Yoda showing up in the show. It was a teaser or trailer prior to the premiere. None of those things happened.
None.
So yeah. I lose again. I think I'm like 0-4 at this point. 0-3.
You shouldn't go to the casino anytime soon.
Ooh.
Yeah. All right. What are they super chatting?
So first up is Mike Ramori. Thank you so much, Mike. How's it going, man? He said, can't be here tonight, but wanted to buy y'all a drink. It's called a Fire in Space. A smoked old-fashioned with an Everclear rim set ablaze. Love you all. Love you too, Mike.
That sounds intense.
That does sound intense.
Thanks, Mike. Appreciate it, man.
Next up is Aaron. Hey, Aaron, how's it going? Thanks so much for the super chat. He said, this hit all the classic Star Wars notes in the very first scene. Opening crawl, the music, aliens talking, alien, sorry. Jedi, lightsabers, the Force, and even the classic transition effect. Ready for more.
Can I tell you? I know there's more super chats, but I figured there's so much to talk about. We haven't even really talked about, like, maybe we should like tackle episode 1 first, then 2. That might be the best way to go for us and on the discussion later. But can I tell you how my chest clinched up when that little baby hugged like his father when they walked up?
I knew. It's funny, when I watched that scene, I was like, John's somewhere crying right now.
Oh my God. I was like, thank God, because you always put yourself in those. I always put myself in character situations.
Yes, you
so I'm like, so if she rolled up to me and I'm that bartender, which
you knew they weren't going to do it. That's a baby. This isn't Dave Filoni animation. Live action is a little different.
I know, but I'm saying, lucky for that bartender, it was bring your kid to work day, because maybe if it was just Joe bartender back there, it's good night.
You're saying the kid saved him. The kid did save him. I thought you were saying she was going to kill the kid. I was like, she was never going to kill the kid. She saw herself in the kid.
No. She's no Anakin Skywalker. No. Okay. Thank you, Aaron.
Next is Dave Probus. Proby1 Kenobi. What up, man? He said, AcoNight. Let's go. Thank you for the super chat. I really appreciate it. Chrissy's up. What up, Chrissy? She said, it's AcoNight, baby.
That's right, baby.
Next up is Kyle Beckworth. What up, Kyle? He said, good start to the series. Hope it gets a little less predictable. That's fair. Master Soul is awesome. He reminds me of Qui-Gon. That's funny you say that, because that's what JJ was going for. He said he studied Qui-Gon.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Kyle.
And last but not least, Christian Morales. What up, Christian? Christian. Still Christian. He said, why is everyone talking about the Occupational Safety and Health Administration?
Right.
OSHA.
Right. Yep.
Funny.
I got you. Thanks, buddy. Appreciate it. All right, Lacey. Before we get into this, for anybody who is joining us, please consider supporting TRB, because shows like AcoNight, how they're put together, how they're presented, the time we put in, plus TRB, plus Nerdy and Nice, couldn't be done without support from our audience. So if you're able to support us, check out patreon.com/TRB podcasts. Our tiers start at just $5. We have a lot of exclusive content on there as a thank you, and a lot of other cool stuff. So if you don't mind checking it out, and if you're able to support what we do, thank you very much. All right, Lacey, let's rate these episodes, and we
Let's do it.
have broken a new record here. We have done something that probably will never happen again. That has only happened in this moment. In this moment, maybe it's a Sith thing. I don't know what it is, but it's very interesting. So we're gonna rate episode 1 first of
Mhm.
the Acolyte.
Mhm.
We're gonna start with you. What did you rate 0 to 10 on the Kelnaka scale? What did you rate episode 1, Lost and Found of the Acolyte?
I gave it a 7. I thought it was a solid start. I don't think it's the best episode of Star Wars TV I've ever watched, but I think it's starting this story on a fresh path. It had interesting characters. I loved the locations and specifically the creature and alien and droid work. I think that's one of the peak things that I've seen over the course of these episodes. And I'm ready for more. So I gave it a 7, a solid 7.
Well, I also gave it a 7 because I feel like I enjoyed it, but not it didn't stick with me the way that like the first episode of Mando did, which I think I gave like an 8. So I couldn't go an 8 or higher. I was flirting with 7.5, but I think there's more to come beyond this first episode. So I stuck with a 7 on the first one too, which averages us out on the Kelnaka scale to, you don't have to be a math wizard, a 7.
Well, I didn't give my answer for the second episode. I only gave it for the first episode.
Well,
But
we're only doing
spoiler
the
alert.
first, and then we'll do the
Oh,
second.
okay. Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yes.
Yeah. So
Go
we
ahead.
give a 7 for the first one.
Yes.
You don't have to put it on screen if you don't want to. You can if you want to. But our TRB patrons chimed in, and they
Mhm.
averaged out to a 7.7 for episode 1. And there's their score there. So you see all their Kelnakas filling up the screen. And
It's
then
so silly. It's so
we
silly.
we had to do this. We love Jonas here on this podcast. We love Wookiees, and Kelnaka
Mhm.
is cool. So let's move on to episode 2 and see what we rated this one. I'll kick this one off. I also gave episode 2 a 7. I felt it was just as good as episode 1. I think what's better about episode 2 is Qimir. Especially on a rewatch, and we'll talk about him a lot later. But especially on a rewatch, I was really hanging on to a lot of what he was saying. And like almost every word, to the point where I was rewinding and like really listening to his delivery. And
Mhm.
we'll get
Mhm.
into our reasons why. But what did you give episode 2 of The Acolyte?
I gave episode 2 a 7. I thought it was a
What?
solid Star Wars show. Isn't over the top crazy in the sense of like, oh my god, that blew my mind, like episode
Mhm.
1 of The Mandalorian or
Right.
the Luke Skywalker episode of Mandalorian, um, or like the Anakin Ahsoka episode, which I rated really high. Did I give any super high scores to Andor? I think the One Way Out episode I gave a high score to, but yeah,
Yeah.
I think 7 is a solid score, so that would put us at a 7
There we are.
for
So
both episodes.
TRB, 7 for both across the
Mhm.
board.
Mhm.
You and I individually 7, us together a 7, and our patrons on the first one a 7.7. Let's check in to see what they rated episode 2,
Mhm.
and they gave episode 2 a 7.7. So 7s across the
So
board.
thank you guys. I only had to make 2 graphics.
Yeah. So us TRB patrons, whether it's 7, 7.7, it's 7s across the board. Monica Geller, here we go. Very a good score though. 7.7 is a very good score from our patrons, but we do need to hear from them and see why they gave their score. So we have a couple of comments here. You ready?
Sure. I love comments.
All right, first we have Kate. She's a brand new major in the base. Welcome, Kate. Thank you
Hi,
so much for
Kate.
joining TRB. Love to have
Mhm.
you. And Kate said a solid 8 Kelnakas for both. I immediately wanted more after finishing the second episode, but I'm also grateful for the wait so I can take in and rewatch these episodes. I love the hand-to-hand combat. I'm a little salty about the ending of the first scene, which, of course, if you're watching or listening to this, we're talking spoilers on this
Yeah,
episode. So
spoilers. We probably should
she's
start with
referring
that.
to the death of Jedi Master Indara, played by Carrie Ann Moss, which a lot of people were very upset about.
Remember
But she
when
said,
in our speculation
"What a
episode
show
we
up."
were like, in every episode, every interview, she's only talking about being on set for one day, and her answers are always, "Oh, what is your favorite thing?" The fight scene, and now we know, like, we were right. It was she was just dying. So she only really had one thing to talk about.
What was your favorite day? What were your favorite days
Yeah,
on
remember?
set? She's like, well, and then we have Josh B checking in. He's an admiral on Patreon. Thank you so much, Josh. And Josh said 6.5 and 6 Kelnakas respectively. So 6.5 for the first and 6 for the second. Josh said, I was disappointed that Carrie Ann Moss's character gets killed in episode 1. So again, that theme. Albeit, I do expect flashbacks in later episodes. Absolutely. We saw stuff in trailers that we haven't seen yet, I think, from her. How do you get an actress of that caliber and only use her for one? Totally agree about Jung Jae's performance. I'm digging the character. Love the aliens, ambience, decor, and tech. He does want more Vernestra, although he feels her character in the show feels stiff compared to how she's portrayed in the High Republic. So thank you, Josh. Thank you, Kate. Thank you, all of our patrons, for submitting your scores. You see these 2 episodes as a little higher than we do, but we're all in that 7 range. Very interesting, because I saw a lot of mixture. I saw this is the greatest Star Wars ever made. I've seen people say that this is killing Star Wars.
You could like
and
this
Star
or
Wars
get out.
You go get out. I saw a YouTube video that said the Acolyte has been canceled. So
Wait,
it's
what?
yeah. Well, you know, people make things up and they get millions of views, and away you go. But let us move on and talk about this episode here.
Let's do it.
But before we do that, Lacey, I think it's time we get into a little bit of our own mystery here. What do you think?
Sure. I'm not sure
Okay.
what the mystery is, but I'm listening.
The mystery that they should be interested in is
The
our
password is
well, pretty much is our Sith code.
Oh,
And
right.
we are here to introduce to you the
Did you
Sith
pick a prize for that?
code. I did pick a prize for it.
Oh, John was in charge of picking the prize. I'm not sure what he picked. So
I think they may have an idea at this point. So this is what we do here. We did this on the Mando fan show. It's a season-long giveaway contest. Basically a scavenger hunt. You got to collect things, you know, sort of like how the Sith collect all these archives and artifacts and all that sort of stuff. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to reveal a number on each episode. Because we did the first 2 episodes on this one, we're going to give away the first 2 numbers. And on our season finale episode, we'll reveal the final number and how you can submit your guesses to win all the Sith. Not one Sith.
No,
not
you
2
didn't.
Sith. All of them. And Lacey, why all the Sith? I'll tell you why. Because the grand prize is a Star Wars Return of the Jedi Emperor Palpatine Legends in 3-dimension bust from Gentle Giant, baby. Woo! Look
Somehow
at
he has returned again.
Look at him. Oh my God, this is fantastic. Absolutely incredible. I am actually thinking about canceling the contest and just getting it for myself. But that would be selfish. That's something a Sith would do. I'm not a Sith. I think they might be more fun than the Jedi in the old era, but I am no Sith. So with that,
How did we get to here? How did we end up?
all right, Lacey, I'll tell you what. I picked this item. So why don't you is there anything you want to add to the pot as we move forward here, or
I'll have to think about it, John. I'm not really sure how I can I just deduct Palpatine?
maybe some Acolyte toys will come out.
I'm just kidding. This is actually a really cool prize, and I know people love Palpatine. I'm like the only person that hates him as much
And also,
as,
it's the Return of the Jedi Palpatine. It's like
it's
the
sick.
classic.
It's pretty sick, and it's classy, so you can have it on your desk or have it in your library if you have one.
Right.
Or I mean, you can have it right next to your bed at night if you really.
Or put it in your yard and scare animals away, deter burglars, piss off the neighbor's dog. I don't know. But so because I'm no Sith and I want someone in our community to win this, I bestow upon them the first and second numbers of the Sith code. Now, don't share these because you don't want other people to win. So the first 2 numbers in the Sith code are 9 and 1. Good luck collecting, and we will see you next week with the next number in the Sith code. All right. Lacey, it is time to talk about this spoiler breakdown of the episode. First off, did you have? Let's start with the first episode, and then
Mhm.
once we feel like we're done with that, we'll move on to the second. We don't
Sure.
have to go timeline like scene 1, scene 2, scene 3, but we'll just focus on the first episode first.
Mhm.
Did you have a favorite shot, moment, line, or scene in episode 1 that really took you?
Mm.
That really took to you?
Why don't you start?
Oh,
I'm
okay.
gonna pass it to you.
I don't know that I necessarily had a favorite moment. I didn't love the fight between Indara and May. Um,
Mhm.
in my rewatch, I found myself really enjoying the sort of escape from the prison ship scene.
I was gonna
It
say chair droids, probably my favorite.
it felt like it was its own it was like a mini episode of The Mandalorian or something. It was like this like little side
It
adventure. She
was,
had to get
yeah.
out of there. It was like
That thing on the guy's face, ugh.
yeah, it was very much like Alien, and there were a lot of references in this show that called back to other franchises. Um, and during that scene, actually, like when she was stuck in her cell and they all sort of like left her for dead, it reminded me a lot of Raiders of the Lost Ark when the guy takes the whip and like drops it and leaves Indy for dead,
Or
and then
Pirates, where Johnny Depp gets left in the cell while everybody else leaves.
right,
Mhm.
or Indiana Jones. But yes, so she's trying to use the Force on her little pip droid
Mhm.
and it doesn't work, but the ship hits an asteroid and bumps Pip closer to her, which is sort
Mhm.
of that fateful, fortuitous thing that is glossed over Indiana Jones. Always things always work out for him. It
Mhm.
reminded me of like a very Indiana Jones moment where she wasn't able to use the Force, but because the ship got shook, it sort of moved normally to her, and she was able to pick up Pip and get out of there. So I thought that was at least felt like an indie callback, as did the alien on the face from Aliens, and there's
Mhm.
others too that we'll get into, but that whole escape scene was a lot of fun, and I have felt these first 2 episodes of The Acolyte haven't had a ton of humor, at least a ton of, like, humor that worked for
I'm
me.
missing it. I'm really
Yeah, so
missing the humor.
because there was attempts at jokes that I didn't necessarily love, felt a little YA, but I'm not
Mhm.
YA, so there you go. But
Mhm.
I thought this scene was a lot of fun, especially on the rewatch. I was able to look around more, and there's a lot to see, a lot of scenery to chew up, and just the whole excitement of that sort of escape, and almost the reverse of C3PO R2, where we're watching them, our heroes, get out on an escape pod. This one, Osha is stuck, and everyone else left on an escape pod, but it wound up working out for her because they got apprehended, and she wound up with Master Soul, which is where she should be. So that was my favorite moment. But let's dig into this episode. Where do you want to
Wait, I didn't
start?
give my favorite moment.
Oh, sorry. Well, you said you didn't really I don't know if you had one, but yeah,
No,
go
I
ahead.
said you go first. I'm gonna build off what you just say and say it's probably the chair droids.
Yeah, the Transformers.
They are so cool, and I that goes back to what I said at the beginning is, like, the creatures and droids and stuff really shined in this show more than any other show. That was something that I was really missing more than anything else with Andor, was that there weren't enough aliens and creatures.
Agreed. Agreed.
This show is not that, and I love that.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna go with
I
that. And, like, Pip is a cute little droid too. I I long for more stuff that makes it feel like we're in another planet. And I feel like
absolutely.
sometimes it feels too earthy and not like, wow, this is over the top, walking into a cantina or going into Jabba's palace and you're just surrounded by different creatures and aliens and things that you've never seen before in your life and you could never even imagine. Uh, Whereas here I felt like we finally got that.
Yeah, I agree completely. I
Yeah.
think there was a lot of cool things to look at. There's a lot of Easter eggs, a lot of different creatures, familiar species, new species. The return of Neomoidians, that was cool.
Yeah.
So that was really
Where
cool.
they're just like, ugh, the Jedi. And you're like, oh, these guys hate them for like a while.
Yeah, yeah. Um, I don't know. Like I was saying, I didn't want to go chronological, but I think it would be a
Mhm,
nice starting point because it does sort of set things in motions to talk about the Indara May fight. Um,
mhm.
we've seen a lot of it already because they released clips of it, whether you either saw it with the Phantom Menace or online or whatever.
They
So we
really just
knew
gave
what
away everything with her, huh?
we sort of knew what we were getting there, and a lot of people sort of like how everyone remember when everyone predicted that Rose's sister was going to die in The Last Jedi for some reason? I
Yes.
remember that. Everyone was like,
Yes.
"Oh, she has a sister," and they haven't talked about the actress or anything. She's gonna die, and she did. And like everyone in fandom was like, "We all did it! Yay! We all called it." This I felt like everyone did the same thing. They're like, "Carrie Ann Moss is dead. She's not gonna make it," and she gets killed. I want to ask you, like, how you felt about this fight. Did you dig it, like the hand-to-hand combat versus lightsaber stuff? How do you think they executed it? And the end result, of course, being Carrie Ann Moss in the present time of the storyline, anyway, as far as we know, dead. What are your thoughts on the opening scene that really like sort of sets the tone pre title credits?
Yeah, I would be lying if I said I was okay with Carrie Ann Moss being dead. I feel like that's a huge waste. And John, you had called it last week where we were joking about it. Like, imagine if they kill her in the first 5 minutes, and they literally did.
Yeah.
And you had said, "Oh, they're good. What if they scream her?" Drew Barrymore, and that's exactly what happened. I was really disappointed. I really wanted her to be a part of the show and be a kind of a driving force of wisdom with Master Soul.
Right.
Now I understand the story where it we talked about it last week, but it like sets the stakes that if she dies, it's like, oh, everybody's up for grabs. Anybody could go.
Yes.
But it was
100%.
just really disappointing. I wanted to see more of her in the show, and I feel like that explains a lot of the interviews that we were joking about, where she's saying like she's not really in them. And you had made a joke too that she looked really uncomfortable and unhappy, and I think it's probably because she's not in the show. I think Amandla has done an amazing job. Her characters shine in this series so far, and really stood out with the fight scene. I I don't know, the whole knife thing, the way Indara died seemed to me a little unbelievable when it comes to Jedi. Like, the Jedi has to stop one knife but can't stop another knife,
Hmm.
can only focus on one thing but not the other. Like, we've seen incredible things done with Jedi, and you're telling me they can't stop a knife that's, like, this big?
I
Or
I
can't, like,
agree.
jump out of the way or do some type of crazy thing, flip or something?
I agree with you, and I know there's this weird theory going around that because of I don't want to jump too far ahead, but what happens to Torben in episode 2, that
Mhm.
are these Jedi so tormented by whatever happens in the past that they
Whatever they
are
did, yeah.
okay with ending their lives ending? But yeah, so I don't know,
Mm.
but it just seemed there was a lot to that scene that bothered me a bit. First of all, like I know that Jedi in this era are supposed to be very monkish and very by the book and stoic and meditative. I completely understand that. But you can also give them personality. Like you can still do that. And like Master Soul, I think has personality. He has heart. Like he's sort of like the
He's
Qui-Gon.
caring, yeah.
He like believes in what's going on, but he also feels like he knows in his heart the right way to do things, sort of like Qui-Gon. Whereas Carrie Ann Moss, like she is a very dynamic presence in a lot of things she's done. Whether I Love Memento or The Matrix, of course, that whole saga. Like her first line in the show just she's like, how can I help you, my child? I'm like, what? And she's just very wooden, and that was like the theme of a lot of the Jedi in the show for me. So seeing her fight and no real expression on her face, it was too much. It was almost robotic. And then she listens to her when she's like, a Jedi only raises their weapon when they intend to kill. I was like, I was hoping she was going to say an Obi-Wan line like, I shall do what I must. But she's like, oh yeah. And she lowers her lightsaber, and then she gets distracted and bang! Knife right through the heart, dead.
I don't know if she was distracted though, because she does sense like, oh, she's gonna throw this. Oh, I have to choose. Like, there was a moment where she chooses. She chooses to save this person's life over her own. But
Yeah.
I'm saying, would a Jedi necessarily have to do that? Is what I'm saying.
It was interesting. It was an interesting choice to say the least, but it certainly, launches the show out
Yeah.
into the
I just thought of
galaxy.
my favorite shot,
And
by the way. I blanked
uh,
earlier, but I remember it now.
okay.
The camera movement of Osha laying down on the ship and then waking up, and the camera moves with it.
Oh, okay. How they like sort of turn it. Yeah. Okay.
Mhm,
Yeah, that's a
mhm.
cool shot. I agree with you that Amanla is great in this show. I think in that first fight with Indara, there is trepidation. She's shaking, her voice is quivering. It almost makes me think like this is her first kill. I don't know if
Mhm.
like there's something I missed that would have confirmed otherwise, but you can tell there's nerves there. But
Very nervous, yeah.
she still feels forced to do this, whether it's by her master or her own belief of what happened in the past. I don't know, but there is a nuanced performance there. She's sweating, her lip is quivering, and we are not
Mhm.
used to seeing that from quote unquote dark side users and acolyte, what have you. So I found that to be very interesting, and that already sort of opened the door for are we getting another redemption type of scenario here?
Mm.
Um, but I want to run this by you. So the end speech by the mystery Sith with the distorted voice. Do you mind if I just read it and then
Yeah, it
could
was
we?
in the teaser,
Yeah. So
right? Yeah.
the person goes because it could be he, could be she. Like remember
We
what
don't know.
Enfys Nest's voice sounded like. Uh,
Yeah.
but the quote is, "The Jedi live in a dream they believe everyone shares. If you attack a Jedi with a weapon, you will fail." And let's not forget, Indara said, "You, this isn't going to go well for you," or something like that, or "This isn't a battle you can win." But he continues, or he or she continues, "Steel or laser are no threat to them, but an acolyte kills without a weapon, an acolyte kills the dream." But we saw Steel kill the Jedi in the first scene. So
Mm.
is that telling us that, to your point, either Indara let it happen, or she broke her spirit first, or her compassions for someone else? It's just interesting how the final lines of the first episode completely contradict what actually happened in the first battle, because she was killed by steel, by a blade.
Yeah, I'm not really sure. I just feel like it doesn't make sense what happened. I understand that May showed up. She has like 17 knives. She's going through a metal detector and she's like, "Hold on, I got one more. Got one more." She's like putting
Mhm.
them all in a pile. I get that. But it to me, people in the chat are saying this, and I understand the viewpoint of like that she accepted the fate of her own death from the guilt that we then see
Right.
get progressed in
That's what I
episode
said.
2.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know, it's just it seems a little messy to me, and it really kinda bothers me that Carrie-Anne Moss got offed so early. I
Yeah.
think and I think also it was ruined by the fact that they showed it in theaters and or put it online. That it ruined for me because I felt like I was rewatching it again and again and again, it didn't have the impact that it should have.
Okay. That's fair.
Do you
Um,
know what I mean? Like, you
I
see this fight already, you already know, like, "Oh, I've seen this fight already," and yeah, you didn't know she was gonna die, but the fight is now ruined. The excitement of her doing her kinda Matrix thing is kinda taken away.
I agree, and there's clearly more coming from her, because
Mhm,
a lot of the trailers show that scene that we keep speculating about with the witches, and it clearly looks like the past
mhm.
because they all have bangs and all that stuff. So Carrie Ann Moss isn't done in this series, but in terms of the present time of the story, she's dead. So
Mhm.
it's however you feel about it, you're going to get more of the character, but ultimately, there's no future for that
Right.
character.
Well,
So,
that's what my problem is not that we're gonna get more of her in the past and understand what the mystery is. My problem is that we're not gonna get her moving forward.
right, yeah.
Yeah.
So we do meet more Jedi who are alive. So,
Yes.
we have Yord Fandor, we have Jecki Lon,
The Yord Horde, as people have been calling themselves online.
the Yord Horde. Yeah, I've seen a lot of big push of love for Yord Fandor, and I don't like the guy. What do you
I
think
don't
of
like
that?
him at all. I think he seems like a pretentious cop that thinks he's in the right, that like, "Yo, bro, I can do no wrong." And I'm like, "Mm, mm,
He he reminds me of Anakin in Attack of the Clones in a lot of ways.
mhm,
Um, he is definitely insecure
mhm,
because You have Jackie Lon, who's a Padawan, who's younger than him.
One of my
He
favorites. Surprised me, by the way.
really
Jackie.
interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. But he keeps calling her a Padawan to remind her that she's below him. He is clearly insecure and self-conscious and all that stuff. He feels like he needs to be the perfect Jedi by the book, almost to the point where he submits his instincts to how he thinks a Jedi should be. And that's why every time there's a situation that comes up, Soul's like, all right, what do you think, Yord? And he's like, we do this, we do that. She goes here, she goes there. And he's like, ooh, that's terrible. And then she shows up with this sound mind. Jackie Lon shows up with this sound mind of common sense. And she's like, why doesn't she just, like, he's circling around and doing loops and she does a straight line. Why doesn't she just go talk to him? And Soul's like, yes. And then you see Yord's face. He's like, come on. Like, so he has fears, he has insecurities, and that relationship between him and Soul, where Soul's continuously like just not approving of his ideas, and the jealousy, a little bit of jealousy of Jackie Lon. I feel a lot of Anakin in him from Attack of the Clones. I'm not saying he's going to turn to the dark side necessarily anymore. I think he's a little bit more of comic relief and just sort of like that take on a Jedi. But boy, a lot of the humor with him didn't really work for me. But he is charming in the sense that I think he is trying to do the right thing. So I like that he's on our side as the good guy, so to speak. Like, you want him on your side because you know he's going to do the right thing and he's going by the book and all this stuff. He's like a Boy Scout in a sense. He's like
I don't know if I'd take him as a Boy Scout. He came across very much like a frat bro to me. Like a very much like, I'm right, you're wrong. Like, I got an ego. Like when he walks onto the ship to find May, it's very much like, I'm in charge. Bow down. I'm a Jedi.
Yeah.
Yeah. But then also, question, do you think him and not May, I keep saying May, Osha, you think him and Osha have some type of romance or background?
I don't, because I think he is so a believer of the Jedi Code and Jedi Order. He's probably like, oh no attachments whatsoever. Absolutely not. You know, I think this guy lives so much by the book that he doesn't even know who he is anymore.
I think Jackie's more of a Boy Scout than Yord is.
Oh, I don't think so. I'm the complete opposite. That's interesting. Yeah.
Why don't you think that? Jackie goes by the like everything. She's like, well, we're supposed to call so and so. Oh, we should do this.
Because I think like when she makes a call, it seems like it's instinct, and she's like, why don't we just do this? Where he's like overthinking it and like trying to prove how good he is just to get the approval of Master Soul. And she's not necessarily that worried about it, it seems. She's just like, she's more confident to me, it seems anyway. I don't know.
Interesting. Okay.
But she left a lot to be desired too, at least in these first 2 episodes. And let's not forget, there's a long way to go. And it's always hard to judge a series because there's been a lot of ups and downs in how people feel about this series. But a mystery series, a detective show, whatever you want to call it, that unravels each week and there's twists and turns, we may completely look differently on these first 2 episodes. Like I was saying in our final prediction show, this show might benefit with viewership for Disney. Like, I don't necessarily care about that, but because people will want to rewatch once they figure out how it all ends out. I do that a lot with these types of shows. But we're hearing people, say it's great, it's not good. It's like this more than any of the other shows. I know we're still do the Kelnaka scale and stuff because it's fun. It's hard to do a connected narrative show and in a silo say this episode was good, this episode was bad, because episode 1 or episode 2 might end up being way more important after we watch episode 7,
Right. Whereas I feel like there are episodes with The Mandalorian that seem like their own adventure, kind of like a comic book where you read one from front to cover or cover to end, whatever. And that story in itself is, yes, there's moments that link to the bigger story, but in itself, you could watch it on its own and it's its own moment.
Yeah.
Whereas this, it's like every episode connects to the next one, which connects to the next one, which could, and then you, like you said, you can go back and be like, oh, this is why this person said this, or oh, this is why this happened. So it
Yeah.
is hard to rate them on their own. But I think looking at it solely as a Star Wars story, you kind of have to, right? You have to look at the story and say, what am I getting from this? What am I learning? What do I know already about Star Wars? And what pieces are making sense in the bigger puzzle of the Star Wars saga itself?
Yeah, that's fair. Um,
Yeah.
so those characters, of course, we don't really get a chance to meet Qimir yet. He sort of really takes center stage in episode 2. But what were your thoughts on a High Republic favorite, Vernestra Rowe?
I might get booed off the show. I did not like her at all. I thought she was boring. I thought she was the type of character that is just causing problems. And I remember after we watched this episode, I called you, John, and I was like, man, you're not going to be happy. Because weeks ago, we talked about the show, and you said if they're going to do the whole like, oh, Jedi are hiding things, I don't know if I'm going to like this show. And right out the gate, she's like, we can't tell anybody about this, Master Soul. You can't talk to a person like this will make us look bad. And I was like, ooh, I don't know how I feel about that. I did like the little call out about, or is this in episode 2 about like the High Council? Was that episode 2? Like right now.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
so fingers crossed, Yoda, let's go. But yeah, I'm gonna be honest, I don't read the High Republic books, so I can't speak to her character in that sense. I'm
Right.
speaking from the person that I saw on camera for however many minutes over the course of these episodes, not even minutes, minute
Yeah,
2. She's boring, don't like her. She brings nothing to the table for me.
I wasn't that
Sorry,
big of a
guys.
fan. I wasn't that big of a fan either. And from my understanding, I saw a lot of High Republic fans saying like how she was much different, which much more enthusiasm and spirit in the High Republic books. I do not read the High Republic books. I mean, I don't read any canon Star Wars books. It's just I gotta watch my Star Wars. That's just how I go. But I just thought even the makeup looked a little not up to par. No offense to Star Trek fans, but it felt like a Star Trek TV makeup job. Um,
Mm.
and it's just the Jedi in this era are boring. She's so wooden. She's very wooden and very stiff. And I don't remember. I felt like some of the lines that they gave for a character, they tried to make them be like these powerful statement lines or just these definitive things said based on just conviction. And I don't remember any of them. It's just so we'll see. I know the light whip's coming. We saw that in the trailers. So there's more of that character to come. Perhaps these Jedi shine through action more than memorable dialogue scenes, personality, and stuff like that. We'll see. But still a fun episode nonetheless. Were you sort of like when you found out definitively that it was twins, were you sort of like, oh, or were you like, okay, there it is. Okay, got it.
I was like, there it is. I
Yeah.
also did the thing that we always do when we watch these shows where I was looking for clips that we saw in teasers and trailers and put it together, being like, oh, that's what that's from. So there's
Yeah.
a moment in one of the recent teasers that came out that's supposed to be kind of like spooky horror, like, ooh,
Mhm.
watch out, bad things are happening. And there's this moment where Osha is on the ship when she's on the prison ship and the pod closes on the doors and she turns around and screams out of like anger, and
Yeah.
they included in the trailer like it was her screaming out of being
Oh,
scared.
they did? Hmm.
Yeah, like her being
Yeah.
like, oh my gosh, but it's actually her mad that they took the ship without her.
That's
And
true.
I was like, well done with the cut.
What about the little girl who in the trailer they were trying to make us think it was May? And they go, "What do you sense?" And kids are like, "Water."
We did think it was May. Yeah.
And she goes, "I sense fire." And then all it ends up being is Master Soul's like, "Yes, fire is very powerful. Uh, we must listen to the Force." And it was just like it was a morning lesson at the Jedi Temple.
He's
And
like,
then
yeah, true dat.
whoever put that trailer together was like, "Oh, I'm gonna get them good on this one. They're gonna think this is
Yeah,
this whole thing," and it was just this lesson. It was so funny. I laughed
that made
so
me
hard when he
oh
was
my
just
god,
like,
that's so true. Yeah,
he was
yeah.
like, he's like, "Yes, fire is powerful. So
what are your thoughts on his delivery? Because there has been a lot of critiques on his delivery. I think he's been amazing. I think he's been
Oh,
very solid in his delivery, acting, performance. He's a force to be reckoned with. I loved him in Squid Game, so I'm coming off that, and I already know what he
oh,
acts like. You know what I mean? I know his mannerisms. I know who he is. And yes,
yeah,
there's differences between that character and this show. I get that, but people come with their own mannerisms. And
yeah,
it's like a hug seeing him on screen because I just adore him so much that I
yeah,
think his delivery is great. I think he's careful in his words. He's careful in his choices. And he knows that if he acts out of the box that he's supposed to be in as a Jedi, it could get him in trouble. So he second guesses things. And those are those pauses. People were critiquing it, being like, oh, well, English is his second language. So that's why he's doing this, this, and this. No, this isn't like a William Shatner where he has to like remember the line and he's pausing. He's adding these beats purposefully,
yeah.
not just because he's speaking
No,
English.
yeah. I mean, do people think Leslie Headland is gonna just leave this dude hanging and not like
Yeah.
help him understand what facial expressions she's trying to get out of him or what his
Mhm.
body language should be? Like he's
Mhm.
an actor. Like that was so stupid when I heard that.
Actor.
I thought I thought he was great. Like
Brilliant.
he was the because to me he was the only Jedi, and again, this is so far. This could change. He was the only Jedi that I was like, that guy is like hard, like not hard on his sleeve, but you can tell he has heart and he cares, and everything he says with purpose. And I was hanging on a lot of everything he was saying. I thought he was tremendous from the fighting because I don't know much about him outside of Squid Game. I will fully admit that. I
I
thought he
admit
was
that
great.
too.
I
Yeah.
thought he was great in this. I thought he was great in that. And I believe I saw in an interview that he has done, a lot of fighting stuff in the past. I think he's like in his
Mhm.
early 50s
In
now.
romantic comedies too, yeah.
Yeah, and I thought he
Mhm.
did great in the fight scenes. I thought he was spectacular in his line delivery, in his one-on-one scenes, especially ones with Osha at the end of this episode, for sure. When they find her and he sort of gets down and he does that Qui-Gon smile that a lot of people
Oh
paired
my
up
gosh,
from social
yes.
media. That was
Love it.
yeah. So I thought he was tremendous, and so it's top heavy for me because there are a bunch of new characters. I mean, all new characters for us,
He's
thankfully,
my
which is also
favorite
great.
character, which I know
Yeah,
is not original because everybody says that, but he really is.
he's tremendous. Amandla is great as both characters. I think she's fantastic. And then I will say Yord is good, but I don't like the character. The actor is doing an incredible job at being him. I
But
just
that's why you
don't
don't like him.
that he's doing a good job. Yeah, I just
Yeah.
don't like Yord. Yeah.
Mm.
And I want to see a bit more out of Daphne Keene because I'll admit I had high expectations because I think we're going to see her fighting a lot more based on what Leslie Headland said, which is I got Daphne Keene because I wanted to see X-23 with a lightsaber. So
Very robotic right now. She's
yeah,
very
so far, just like on the
Mhm.
surface, and again, maybe this is on purpose, so we can only go by what we've seen so far. But as of now, I'm not super impressed with all of the characters. The Jedi are a little flat for me, and that's why I put it. That was like one of the only critiques of my review.
I th
Um,
Yeah, I think Leslie Headland's doing a good job as we go into the series of the Sith and the bad guys being the underdog. I very much was rooting against the Jedi in these episodes. I was like, they seem like cops that have
mm,
done terrible things that
mhm,
are hiding stuff.
yeah,
Because as soon as you get some type of person in power, whether it be government, cops, teachers, whatever, people that have some type of power, things go wrong. You know, we're
yeah,
human, people are human-esque in
right.
Star Wars. So human error, things are going to happen. And the quick thing to do is to try to cover it up so you don't have to deal with the bigger issue. And I think that's what we're seeing here. So you're automatically like, well, Jedi kind of suck. Like they kind of like making bad decisions out of
Hey,
their own kind of hubris, as Luke Skywalker said.
yeah, I agree. And if this is supposed to be the Jedi at their height, it's not impressive. It's
Yeah.
like it's like in what's that movie? What's that
It reminds
movie?
me of Andor with the Republic where there's clearly so many terrible things going on, and they're just kind of like, well, status quo says we do this, or we can't work, outside this box. Or with Ahsoka when she's like, look, Thrawn's coming back. Can you guys help me out? And they're like, well, we can't go outside of this. You don't have proof. And she's like, I'm telling you this is happening. Or not Ahsoka, but what's her name? Oh my God. Like Hera.
Sabine?
No,
Oh,
Hera.
Hera.
Hera
Yeah.
goes before the kind of court and is like, look, this stuff's
Oh,
happening.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
And they're
Yep.
like, nah, dog, we're not going outside our guidelines. Like, you don't know what you're talking about, all this stuff. And
The New Republic, yeah.
right. And you're seeing that with the Jedi here. And you saw it also in Andor on the other side of that equation with the Empire, where all these
Yeah.
people in power are like, we're in power, everything's good.
I am, yeah, I'm a little bummed that that's the angle they're taking because as much as I don't like the Jedi in terms of how boring they are. I wouldn't hang out with them. I wouldn't go to their birthday parties. Like, I still want the Jedi to prosper because the Jedi are the light. They do bring balance by vanquishing the dark side. I'm rooting for them. I don't like the idea of the Jedi being shady and covering stuff up. Like, and it seems like that's what's happening here. I
Mhm.
wish it was more of the Jedi just got lost in their little bubble that they're in, and it evolved into something. Because when you're just constantly wrapping yourself around with like-minded people, you tend to gravitate toward the extreme of what that is. And it feels like
Mhm.
that's what the Jedi have done. I'd rather them have just stumbled over what they were supposed to be and not try to cover stuff up. So I hope they land the plane in terms of this story, but it makes me a little nervous because I also don't want to deal with fans being like, oh, they ruined the Jedi now and stuff. It's just like
But at the
I'm
same
a
time, I
little
don't know if
nervous
they
about it.
did, because there is a clear parallel with the prequels, like The Phantom Menace, with Master Soul and Qui-Gon, where Qui-Gon's the one that's constantly questioning, which then obviously goes to
Oh, of course. Yeah.
Obi-Wan, who's questioning things, and then Anakin even worse. He like have questioning, then more questioning, then even worse questioning. But with Master Soul and Qui-Gon, it seems like they're the only voice of reason of like, okay, well, maybe everything isn't black and white, isn't as it seems. Like, let me look into it. And it just kind of annoyed me where it was like, no, we can't do that. That's not possible. What's happening right now? What's happening is this.
Yeah.
And Master Soul's like, well, what about this? And they're like, nope, nope,
Yeah.
over here.
Right.
And
Agreed.
it makes you angry, which is the point of the show and is point of the writing, is that you're kind of being forced to side over here with the bad guy, being like, well, maybe they do kind of suck. Maybe bad guys should show up, you know?
I mean, the Sith are kind of fun, and I hope that there
Yeah.
is like, because people, oh, like kids, like when it comes to action figures or whatever. Like my son loves Bebop and Rocksteady from Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. He thinks
Mhm.
Shredder is cool. He likes Palpatine. He likes Vader. Like bad guys are cool. Boba Fett was a popular character before he was even on screen because of an action figure, and he was a bad guy. He was considered a bad guy. I know he's riding like a bantha now and doing his thing, but Boba Fett when he was first pitched, it was this guy's a bad guy. So I get that, and I'm rooting for the idea of the Sith being interesting and provocative and like blow our minds with something in this show, and hopefully that's coming. Um, there was a few musical callbacks I caught. I don't know if anyone else caught these. I mentioned them in my shorts, but specifically at 21:35 in episode 1, when the last escape pod gets jettisoned from the ship and it's just Osha stuck on the ship, an asteroid hits it and it's a shot from space, and clearly heard Yoda's theme being sampled at 21:35. I don't know why it was, but it was clear as day the Yoda theme, and I found that to be interesting. So I thought that was cool. And then there's another one for episode 2, which I'll talk about. But I know there's a lot of other stuff we can dig into here for episode 1. We do have to get into episode 2, but are there other points from episode 1 that you wanted to bring up or point out or talk about?
Not really. I think it's just kind of a baseline of who's who and what's going on.
Yeah.
Um, that's,
There-
the start of the adventure.
yeah, and it really ramps up in episode 2, but I know we probably have some super chats.
We do. Thank you for bringing that up. We do have a bunch of super chats. So first of all, we have Diana. Thank you so much, Diana, who says, hello there. Why, hello. Glad I finally had a chance to make it live. It's been a minute. How long do you think till we can buy your own Pip? Love him. That's a great question, Diana, because John and I were actually discussing merchandise for the Acolyte, and there isn't much. I mean, Hasbro's putting out like Mandalorian stuff daily, and they have a Soul figure, a Yord figure, May, and Jackie Lon. But like, they don't have any other figures. It's kind of like weird. There's nothing coming out about this show, and I don't know if that's their own doing or if it's a Lucasfilm delay again. I don't know. What do you think, John?
If they want to sell them, especially if this show, like they would have had to, it has to be in production already. Because if it's not, like, I don't know, man. It's just like I don't know what's going on with Hasbro. I keep hearing excuses from Hasbro. I hear excuses from Lucasfilm, not directly, but you hear things, whether it's from interviews we do or whatever, and it's just like I don't see other franchises having this problem. It's like, and Star Wars never used to have this problem. Before The Force Awakens came out, all the toys were coming out for that movie. And I think that was a bigger secrecy that they wanted to protect than an episode of a TV show. So the Pip thing, I'm assuming, is on some assembly line right now, being put together in some country.
Probably for Christmas, to be honest.
Probably for Christmas. And they'll
That's
probably
the big
feature
quarter
it.
for them.
They'll probably have a nice booth for it in a display at Celebration Japan next year where people can look at it and see it move around and stuff. That's my guess. They will definitely sell these though, because
they did Lola, they did Chopper. I'm sure they're gonna do.
Yeah,
Pip.
they did Lola.
And Pip is a
right.
carryable. Is it carryingable? Carryable? What's the word I'm looking for? Able to be carried. It's in a pouch. So they're gonna sell it with the pouch, like they do with Grogu and all those other.
And he's like a little handheld R2D2. Like he gets her out of jams,
kind of like
but
Transformer.
yeah, she could pop him in her pocket instead of like waiting for it to, when he doesn't have his little jetpacks, the rockets. R2 is just scooting along behind everybody. Yeah, so I think that's the case.
Yeah. Next up is Aaron. What up, Aaron? He said, I feel like they've captured the arrogance and hubris that lead to the downfall of the Jedi in the prequels. Yord probably embodies this the most. Does he ever, Aaron?
I agree. He's not instinctual at all. He's like, what did it say? It was code 4B57. And Soul's like, all right, like, enough. You get an A. You get an A on the paper.
All right, stop. Thanks, Aaron.
We did have a quiz today. Thank you, Yord.
Diana's back and says, apparently I can't spell how long I mean. And then she did face palm, like laughing face. I got you, Diana. I corrected you. Don't worry. I got you.
Thank you.
Next is David Ford. What up, man? He said, oh my Force. It's the best Star Wars show since the holiday special. Even a Jedi Master can't stop a knife. Best Star Wars director ever. I'm assuming you're being sarcastic.
It sounds a little sarcastic, David.
But thank you for the super chat. We really appreciate it. Aaron's back again. What up, Aaron? He said, Yord has many similarities to Anakin as well. Questions Master Soul, leads with emotions and fear. His pride and arrogance, similar speech tone too. I mean, yeah, we saw in the teaser clips that at one point, we haven't seen it yet, he's going to get approached and like kind of like on the ground. We haven't seen that yet. The only assumption is he's going to back himself into a corner because of his own, like, I'm a Jedi. Ha ha ha.
Yeah. Oh, I could see Yord getting picked off at some point. But they can't thin out the cast.
Didn't you say though that you thought he was the Acolyte?
I thought he could have been.
That was your big theory that you kept pushing. Don't fall back.
That wasn't my big theory. My big theory was that
and the possession.
The possession thing. But I am right about one thing, and we'll get to it in the next episode. Okay. One thing. But yeah, I thought Yord would seem shady to me. I don't know. I still don't like him. Like, if I was a Jedi, I'm not rolling with that guy. Like, I'm glad he's gonna go on some mission and probably do a great job, and then come back and tell everybody how good of a job he did at lunch.
So
and he's definitely
like,
the kind of
Yord can't roll with me.
Yeah, he definitely.
Yord the worst.
He tucks the napkin in when he's eating, and he has the big napkin so he doesn't get like space ketchup on his like little robes, because he's always steaming things. No wrinkles. He's
very shirtless.
He's very he's
giving some beefcake in this episode.
He's a little too much, honestly. A little too much for me.
All right. Next up is Stephen G. What up, Stephen? He said, "Can Dean Charles Chapman get a good death in a show?" I don't know what
Well,
other shows he's in. What other shows is he in?
I don't know either. Well, we'll get to him in a couple of minutes here.
David Ford's back. He said, first of all, thank you. He said, "Sorry, Master Beavis went cornholio in your village."
Okay. Thank you, David.
And Steven's back again. What up, Steven? He said, "I'm so happy again to watch and listen. You're the best, and positive energy keeps me staying. And I use the coffee cup for my tea." Oh, thanks, Steven. We're so happy to have you here.
Dude,
Thanks for being part of the
thank you,
show. We
man.
really appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
And last but not least for now is William. Thank you, William. He said, "Bet we get a shirtless Yord figure before Ben Solo." Don't you even. Don't you even, William.
Yeah.
But very funny. And he did a wink face. Anyway.
All right. Do you want to hop into episode 2?
Yes, let's do it.
All right. So episode 2, it starts off, again, we're not going to go chronological, but just to start things off, May sneaking into the Olega Jedi Temple. I wonder if like someone who's like in charge of naming things, like was like, "Oh, hey, we didn't name this planet." And he's like, "Hang on, I'm working on some Bad Batch stuff." And he's like, "We just need a name for a planet." And he's like, Olega. Just call it Olega. They're gonna love it. They're like, "All right, done. Olega."
Olega.
But she sneaks in and she tries to kill Torben, and he's all doing his meditation thing. And I had posted last night, was one of the only things I posted really last night after everyone
Terrible
was watching,
hair.
was a picture of Crix Maydeen from Return of the Jedi with his velcroed on beard, which I believe was a fake beard in Return of the Jedi. Just to remind people, like Star Wars always kind of had stupid looking characters because the 70s and early 80s were a pretty atrocious time for male hair and fashion. So
His hair and beard looked terrible. I'm sure it was a little bit of a wink to Star Wars fans, but man,
100%.
when I talked to you on the phone, John, I was like, "What was that?" And you were
I
like,
think it
"I'm
was
pretty supposed to be on
totally
purpose." And I was like, "It's still terrible."
I think it was totally on purpose because look at like what they do with special visual practical effects and hair applications for Wookiees and the individual mohairs that they weave
I
in.
did remember throwing something out there though, based on how he looks. He has that kind of scar going down his face.
Big
And
scar.
from the teasers, we saw the shots of Kelnaka kind of like fighting people and whatnot. I think Kelnaka gives him a little bit of a shk over his face.
Yeah, I think so too. Because we do see in the trailer Torben's eyes go black and he falls to his knees. It's almost like he does get possessed or something happens with him. And yeah, something's going down. He's getting messed up. And clearly, maybe even more than Indara, I'm not sure. He gets to the point where he takes this vow, which is sort of like disconnecting basically what the vow does, and I think it was created in the High Republic. Thank you, Wikipedia. Couldn't talk about this stuff without you.
Baresh vow, right?
Yeah, the Baresh vow. It disconnects you from the Force, and you become like you just get into this meditative state where you just connect with just the Force, and it's almost like you're frozen in the Force or whatever. And it clearly turns out that he's not, because she can get to him pretty quickly, and he was probably listening to her the whole time. And maybe when he realized that she brought him relief, he's like, okay, because he's been tormented all this time. So that's another dark part of the show. It's like we're talking about
How bad
suicidal
were
Jedi.
they? I know how bad is the stuff that they did? That's what I keep thinking,
suicidal
like, is
Jedi
how
is
bad.
wild.
Yeah. It was rough to watch.
It was. And again, with the flashbacks, I'm sure there's a lot more we're going to be able to see from him to understand how he
And you're
got
like,
to where he's at.
"Osha." Yeah, and you're like, "Osha, don't go in there. Don't go in there. Don't go in there." And then they're like, "Hey, how did you get in here?" And I was like, "Ugh, why'd you go in there?"
Yeah. Well, what I did like about it was there are so many movies and TV shows who will drag that out and be like, I don't trust her, man. And then Yord, my least favorite
Dun, dun,
dude,
dun.
he's like, "Don't worry, everybody. I was watching her the whole time. She's good."
He didn't even come down
Thanks.
from the stairs. He just stood up there the whole time. And you're like, "Okay, what kind of blocking is this? Can he come down?" Like,
Thanks,
why is he
Yord.
above everybody?
Here's your Jedi cracker. Thank you. So that's a good Yord. Good Yord. Good job.
Good job, buddy. Way to go.
So now we're down 2. So now we got Indara dead,
Mm-hmm.
Torben dead, but May needed help, and that's where Qimir comes in. So I'm gonna throw it to you. Let's talk some
Yeah.
Qimir. Because
Qimir.
I think we're gonna spend most of the time talking about him.
Qimir is the one that, out of these 2 episodes, really left me thinking. I was thinking about Qimir for, the moment I met him, I was like dissecting everything he said because, first of all, I love the actor, but second of all, I was getting a vibe from him that he's very weird. He was coming off, stuttery, jokey. Oh, I'm the guy. I have the thing for you. But it was
I'm
just
drunk. Yeah.
all my flags were going off like, wee, sketch, sus, look at this guy. And I feel like I was validated in those thoughts when they send in Osha as May, and he walks right up to her and gets super close to her face and is like, you look just like her.
Oh
And
yeah.
it's so out of character from the character we've seen up until this point, who's very kind of skittish, like all over the place, like, oh, I'm gonna get you that thing, don't worry, the master, blah blah blah, oh my god, bad guy. It came across very much to me, Professor Quirrell from Harry Potter, someone that's skittish, like nervous, oh my god, what, I'm the scary guy, there's a troll in the castle, oh. But then when the time comes and Voldemort's like, nah, we got to kill Harry, he all of a sudden becomes this bad dude with no stutter who's like, okay, now you're going to die, Harry Potter. So I'm just getting those vibes from that character because all of a sudden he was very kind of dark with Osha. And then when Master Soul and everybody came, it's like a switch went off and he went back to the, whoa, what? I just
Exactly.
work here. What's
Yeah.
going on?
Yeah.
There was a funny line though that I did see some people posting about online as well, is when they're like, who is he? And he's like, what does he say? He says something like, I don't know. He just showed up here and he was pointing at Yord.
Yes.
Master Soul says that.
Yes. So he accidentally refers to the fact that he knows that May's working for somebody, and Soul caught that. So then when he said, "Who's he?"
Yeah,
he
because they're listening on the
acts
radio.
confused. Yeah, he purposely acts confused, and he goes, "Oh, him? I thought he was with you." And yeah, I caught that. One thing way earlier,
I think he's the Sith Lord. I really do.
Yeah, you had told me that. So then I was like, all right, let me go back and watch again. So I go back and watch again.
Because you went, no. And
No,
I was like, I think so.
Yeah. I don't know that I thought of it. I definitely didn't think of it when I first watched it. But then you mentioned it, and I'm like, let me watch it again through that lens. And I just want to just indulge me for a minute here. I'm going to go
Please
back
do.
and I'm going to read what that Sith said at the end of the first episode, and then I'm going to read something Qimir said in episode 2. Okay? So
I'm the weirdo that's like looking at height differences, and I'm like, is there anything I can pick out? I couldn't. I could not.
Yeah.
I couldn't. But it was just weird how he got turned creepy for a little bit.
Agreed. So again, at the last thing in the first episode, this masked Sith character, distorted voice, says, "The Jedi live in a dream. A dream." Again, he goes, "The Jedi live in a dream. A dream they believe everyone shares. If you attack a Jedi with a weapon, you will fail. Steel or laser are no threat to them, but an acolyte kills without a weapon. An acolyte kills the dream." So a lot of ending a sentence with a word, noun, starting the next sentence with a noun. Now let's go to what Qimir says about the Jedi.
Oh, you went into grammar, Mr. English major.
English major,
Oh,
literature,
what?
baby.
You went like deep with this. I was like, yo, he was kind of creepy. You're like, no, let's break down what he said.
Oh, we
by
get
syllable.
I mean, yeah, we
You're getting really nerdy right now. I kind of appreciate this.
We advertise ourselves as a good time, but we get deep. We dig in, and
you're getting very nerdy right now.
I'm
I
getting
like it.
very
Let's
nerdy.
go. Let's go. We're getting in it. Okay.
So when Qimir is like making his potion or whatever for her, his quote is, Everyone has a weakness. The Jedi justify their galactic dominance in the name of peace. And peace, so he does the same exact, he ends the sentence with peace and then goes,
Oh.
and peace is a lie. Torben is not the serene, as you say, impenetrable mediator. Like every Jedi, he only thinks he found peace. What he really needs is something only you can give him. And what does he say? Absolution. And what does Obi-Wan say to Anakin in Revenge of the Sith? Only Sith deal in absolutes.
What? Michelle in the
Same.
comments saying this is how they caught the Unabomber, John. Great job.
Look, I'm not opening my mail for the next week. Thanks a lot, Michelle. But it's the speech patterns, and here's the thing why I think it's deliberate. Because two different people wrote these episodes. Leslie Headland wrote the first one, and the second one was written by two others. So
Yeah.
the fact that the speech patterns are the same, to me, is a deliberate call from above in terms of the story itself. So
And
again,
it can't be just a throwaway, because you pointing this out, I could see someone argue, oh, well, maybe they want you to think that. But no one normally talks like that.
yeah.
Like, it's a weird thing to say, oh, yeah, someone's over here talking like this guy over here.
Yeah, and like it's
It's
very
weird.
theatrical. It's very Sith. It's very dramatic. So again, he goes, the Jedi live in a dream they believe. But an acolyte kills without a weapon. That's the Sith. And then Qimir goes, in the name of peace, and peace is a lie. And he says absolution. It's just like, I almost want to feel like it's one of those things where they're like, I don't think they're gonna pick up on that. But if you get enough people together, it's like Palpatine talking to Anakin, like together we could find the secret. You tell me you think it's him, and I'm like, I'm diving back in. So I go in with that lens, and I'm looking at it. I type out. I'm like Murder She Wrote. I'm typing out the quotes.
Someone said
like,
boy math.
yeah, I'm like the person in the who's the person in the courtroom who's like typing all the stuff. I'm typing word for word. I got the quote. Yeah. And then I'm comparing them, and I'm like with the typewriter and the old detective stories. I got it. I think I got it. You know,
Yeah.
I don't know if he's the Sith Lord, but if he is, this speech pattern, it's like mirrors perfectly, and I think that's them giving us a subtle hint.
I just feel like between that and the fact that when May isn't there, the way he switches, his whole stance of how he carries himself and how he talks to Osha, and he gets like so close to her and gets really creepy. To me, that's what tipped me off, that I was like, I don't, because when I watch stuff, by the way, I text John in Discord as I'm watching it. So you could go back and read as I'm watching, you know exactly where I am in the episode. And I was like, he's creeping me out. I don't like him, which I wanted him to be like the funny Han Solo type, but he's not at all. They went
No,
very
I thought
different
he
with
was.
him.
Yeah, I was wrong on him. I thought he was going to be sort of like the eyes of the people, you know. But
Yeah.
he's here's the other thing that bothered me in the episode, because it shows the ineptitude of the Jedi, who are supposed to be at the height of their powers.
Right.
The locals, or whoever the local Jedi are, whatever local actors they had for this.
Oh yeah. The mall cops they had just watching the temple and just
Everyone
been like,
was
we'll keep
British
an
because
eye.
that's where they filmed it. Yeah,
We'll keep an eye on him.
yeah. He's like, oh, that's not our regular guy. I don't know who this guy is. And they're like, oh, okay. So they just go into the store, and they're not like, hey, where's the regular guy? Who are you and why are you here? Is the regular guy on PTO? Like,
Where is May? Dun,
did he go
dun,
to Batu?
dun. And then they let him go.
Yeah, did they just let him go? It's amazing.
After he said the creepy stuff and was like, he is not going to be happy, blah, blah. And they're like, who's he? And he's like, I don't know. And they're like, okay.
Yeah. It was almost like one of those where he's like, what? What? What?
What?
And they let him
What'd
go.
you say? No, what did you say?
They had him right there. So it's very interesting to me. I'm on board with that theory as well, that he is that masked Sith. It doesn't necessarily mean that he's the boss either, because there's a lot more to go in this season, and I think they do have plans to tell more. So
I
hopefully the
think
show's a
he's
success.
the acolyte.
You think he's the acolyte
Wait,
to a bigger boss, or you think he's
no,
the Sith and
I
May's
think
the
he's
acolyte?
wait, isn't it Acolyte Apprentice Sith?
Well, I think acolyte
Isn't that how
is a
Leslie Handlin expressed it? She said it's Acolyte, then a apprentice, then a Sith, and at some point, the apprentice has to overtake the Sith, so then they bump themselves up, and then the Acolyte goes, "Okay, now I'm an apprentice."
yes. I think that's
I
kind of
think
sort of how it
he's the
goes.
apprentice.
So there, yeah, and that's my other thing. I hope this does tie back to Plagueis in some way.
I don't think he's the
Otherwise,
tippity top. I think he's middle manager.
he could be middle manager for sure. Um, but it's interesting. It's an interesting thought, and like I just felt like, wow, this could really be it when I was comparing the line deliveries and how that was written. Like nobody talks like that. It's so deliberate, and the fact that two different writing teams wrote the
Mhm.
same type of
That's genius.
cadence.
I
That's
never even thought of that. So,
Thank you.
thank you for
Thank
taking my weird, creepy vibes and translating them into actual evidence that makes sense outside of like, "He just, like, didn't seem right to me."
you. Hey, we put our two heads together and we came to this
Because
because
that's how
I
I went. I was like, "I just don't like the way he looked at her," and you were like, let me actually go back and watch it and look into some evidence." That's why I'd be a terrible cop, by the way, and I know this, is that if anything like that happened, I'd be like, "They're guilty. Guilty.
well also
Done."
don't forget like he is so aware of everything that May is doing. Like
Mhm.
it's like so
Hyper aware.
they're working together. Like he knows about the four Jedi that she's looking to kill, and he mentions I used to be a gun runner for the Hutts, and then
Yes, I loved that call out, by the way.
those two dudes who rolled up on Kelnaka on Kofor at the end were speaking Huttese. So did
Mm.
Qimir have past connections to people he worked for with the Hutts who he knew were disassociated enough from his Sith work that he sent them there to sort of survey uh
Oh
Kelnaka's
my
turf?
god, I never made whoa, John, I never made that
Yeah.
connection,
I brought
that he
look,
said that and you did,
I brought it tonight, folks.
I didn't realize that those guys were
It's
speaking Huttese
it's not
after
me, Lacey. It's not me. It's the 2-day-old pizza box. It's the 2-day.
you
I
open it
wrote
up,
all
there's
my
all these
notes.
theories.
All my notes are written on the back of this. No, I'm just kidding. They're not.
Oh my gosh, I didn't even realize at the end that they were speaking Huttese, and that would make total sense because he said he was there. That lets you what the thing people need to realize is that lines, moments, stuff like this, everything has a purpose. So the
Yeah.
moment he says that to me, it was like, "Oh, that's a fun Easter egg." You're saying, "No, that's not the case." It actually makes sense because then at the end of the episode, you're seeing people speak this language, so there has to be a connection there, and that is absolutely true, genius, well done.
Ah, thanks.
Great
I
job,
appreciate that.
John.
I have to learn to say thank you more because I get embarrassed when I get compliments, and then I was told you gotta say thank you so that you.
Matt Lawless in the chat goes, "John's about to get a cease and desist from Lucasfilm."
I don't look. I don't know. I'm not privy or anything like that. This is just
Yeah.
what I dissected from watching these episodes.
Mhm.
And there is definitely more to talk about with Qimir. There's other quotes I looked at of his, but based on like what you were saying, Lacey, with his body language and his head tilts and the height differential
He's
and
just
how much he
kinda
knows,
creepy.
it's just and then also the cherry on the sundae is how clearly formidable he is when he turns it on at the end and like puts the knife up against her and she's like,
Mhm.
"You almost ratted me out." Like he went from, "Hey, I'm drunk. Hey, man. Oh,
He
hey.
wasn't
Oh,
drunk,
yeah.
yeah.
Give him this," to
"I'm gonna murder
like,
you."
yeah. So, and then like we see him casually walking in the middle of the street throwing garbage away when they're surveying something else. It's that. Do you remember that scene where he doesn't have a dialogue? He's just walking down the street and he throws garbage away, and they're up on the balcony talking about something else. To me, that's another thing of that saying like right out in the like what do they
Well,
say
not
like
even that. Think about
hiding in
Palpatine.
public. Yeah.
Right. So the big thing about Palpatine going into the prequels was how did no one know Palpatine was this guy? Because he
Right.
was a schmoozer. He
Yep.
was lovely. He was smiling. He was hugging Amidala, welcoming her to Coruscant. He was doing all like taking Anakin out to an opera. Like he
Yeah.
was this like charming guy.
Yeah.
So you have to have someone that does that, that is lurking in the shadows, that's then going to make their move. And you can't hide in plain sight if you're a creepy dude. You got to be like, I don't know what's going on. So then the Jedi, who are too stubborn to see anything in front of their face, are going, there's no way this guy knows anything. He's an idiot.
Yeah.
Little do
That's
they
true.
know, bum, 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 he's
Right.
the bad guy.
And like there's a sort of symbolism in doing that where you have him just walking down the street eating something and throwing a piece of garbage away. He is observing everything, like hiding in plain sight is the phrase I was looking for, and they're literally looking over him, past him. And that
Same
to
with
me,
Palpatine. They couldn't
that's a
believe that he would do it.
that's like there's the only
Mhm.
reason they put that shot in where he's walking down the street is as a sort of metaphor of he's right there and they can't even see it. Like
Yeah,
like the
so
same thing with
stupid. Yeah,
Palpatine. And
oblivious.
like you were saying about him playing sort of like dumb and goofy and stuff, or vulnerable when the Jedi arrived versus when they weren't there, two different sides of the coin, is exactly like when Anakin shows up and it's Palpatine versus Windu, and all of a sudden Palpatine's like, I'm an old man, please don't let him kill me,
Mhm.
please. And then as soon as Anakin compromises Windu, it's power. Bah! It's
Right,
just
right.
like these guys are so
They're playing
good.
the long game. The long
Yeah,
game is blend in, wreak chaos. You know what I mean?
yeah, yeah. And the only other thing I have, I wanted to see what you think about it for back to Osha and May is I think Osha purposely missed her with the stun gun. I don't know if that's obvious to
100%.
everybody because
100%.
she
She
shot
didn't want to
twice
kill her sister.
and Soul knew it. He stares her down and
That's why he looked at her.
gives her the whole I'm very disappointed in you.
But he knows in his heart of hearts that she wouldn't be able to kill her. It's his He knows what she went through and the trauma that she dealt with her sister being dead. And he
Yeah.
explains that to Jackie Lon and other people. So he has an understanding, that fatherly relationship, that understanding with Osha. She was never going to be able to kill her own sister. Despite no matter what she says, she's never going to be the one that has to do it. It's got to be someone else.
Oh, I agree. Yeah. And
Yeah.
I I hate that this is probably going to happen, but we're probably looking at another redemption situation in Star Wars.
For May,
Yeah. Even though she killed Jedi, I mean, we've seen Anakin do it, and he got redeemed.
I
At
mean,
least in the
Kylo
eyes of his
Ren,
son.
Ben Solo got redeemed,
And he was the Jedi killer.
and he killed villages of people
He had ashes of people in his bedroom.
that he then put in his helmet.
People are like, "Oh, I love him." We won't get into that again. But I think there's clearly that love between the sisters. Like she doesn't
Which is
say
the Frozen
Osha.
thing that we
She says
talked
her
about
nickname.
last week.
She goes, Oshi. It was like
Oshi. And they have that saying. What is it? Like the
yeah.
two of us, whatever.
Yeah. And then yeah, exactly. And she immediately she called her Oshi, which is telling us she immediately went back to her feelings of when they were kids.
Mhm.
And there's that bond that you can't break. So I'm very interested to see where that goes between the two of them, and
Mhm.
it really all hinges upon what happens with this Sith stuff. So I'm certainly excited with
I can't
that.
wait to see where this goes. Yeah.
I'm excited to see where it goes too. And I saw, I think I popped in the chat and I saw someone say like, "Watch all this excellent detective work when it being wrong." And it's like you're probably right. It might very
It's
well be
Blake.
wrong.
Shout out to Blake. Watch this absolute
Like
fire theory evidence be totally wrong. But isn't that the fun of it, Blake? Is that we're sitting
that.
here going, this, and this. And then 2 weeks from now, we're going to be like, none of this matters.
Yeah. Like you think Leslie Headland or the other writers I apologize. I closed my show notes, but the writers for episode 2, I want to say it correctly. Jason McAuliffe and Charmaine DeGrati or DeGrate.
Who
My
has written for
apologies.
The 100. She's written for House of Dragons. She's
House of
written.
the Dragon, yeah.
Yeah.
Like they didn't pick the word absolution off the top of their head. They were like, "Ooh, we got to use this one because this is what Obi-Wan said, like
Mm-hmm.
Sith deal in absolutes." And the
Mm-hmm.
way they toss that word in there. So I I'm on board with this whole theory, and I hope it
Stroking
shakes
the
out
beard,
because
thinking about it.
And you know why I hope it's right? Because then it shows that it was written with a
Purpose.
lot of care and like it's got to be so nerve-wracking to write Star Wars and want to preserve the surprises for people. It has to be triple that when you're trying to preserve a mystery story. So I'm sure Leslie Headland is like, I don't know if she's a nail biter, but she's got to be sitting there like hoping that not everything is figured out and people are enjoying the ride. And
But
you're
then
right,
things
Lacey.
aren't missed.
This is the fun stuff, like
Mm.
speculating like this and having fun. Because I'll tell you what, maybe a lot of people who have theories like this, it doesn't go their way, and then they get pissed online. They're like, "Oh, this is how it should have went." If he's not the Sith Lord, sign me up for whoever is. That's
Yeah,
where I'm. So
100%.
yeah.
Mhm.
And I know we have a couple super chats as we
We
let that digest. So.
do. First up, Soonerthron. Thanks, man. He said, keep in mind, Vern went through a terrible dark time seeing lots of Jedi and lots of people were killed by this terrorist, Marky and Rowe. She's scared. I mean,
Scarred.
probably. Oh, scarred, scared, scarred.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, people have said this. Renestra is a different character in the book than she is now. Obviously, she's been through a ton of stuff. I get that. I'm just, as I said earlier, I'm seeing it for who it is in front of me in the show. I don't know any background to her besides that she's in the High Republic, that she used to have longer hair, and she has a light whip. Those are the three things I know about her. And I'm going in with that perspective. And from that perspective, her character's not interesting. Very boring.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of the character, and I think that's it's okay to say that. We got to remind ourselves like don't
You can't like everything. That's just
that's
no
the
one is
thing.
that. No
That's
one
the
does that.
thing. Like I remember writing my like social media reaction, and I got called like some people were annoyed I think at some of my criticisms, and then some people were like, "Oh, how much is Lucasfilm paying you?" So you get it from both sides, and it's just like, guys,
People said
I
I was
love
lame for
Star
saying
Wars.
slow burn, and I was like, "It is a slow burn. It's
I
a
love
mystery
Star
that
Wars
builds as it goes. It's a slow
more
burn."
than anything, but it's like we're going. There's so much of it, so many characters, so many plot lines. There's going to be things naturally you don't like. Like it's just how it is. It's how you deliver that, and you don't try to revel in the like upsetting people. That's when
Yeah.
it's being an adult and handling yourself the right way.
And
I
I
don't really like Vernestra Rowe. I am so thrilled that you do.
Yeah, and
That's
I
that's
think
there
there's
we
a difference too that I think needs to be acknowledged of you can not like something and still understand it. Because I think that's another critique that comes out. It's either, oh, you're a shill, you love everything, Disney's paying you, which I wish they were. I'd love some money. Or two, you are a negative person, you're toxic, whatever, because you don't like this thing. But at the same time, just because I don't like it doesn't mean I don't understand it. And I got that a lot over the past few years of like, oh, well, the reason you don't like this is because clearly you just don't get it. You don't
Mhm.
understand Star Wars. You don't understand what the point is here. No, I understand the point. I just don't like it. And that's okay too. That's
Yeah,
totally fine.
absolutely.
Um,
Yeah.
all right. Thank you so much, Tuner Throne. And then he put in another super chat. Thanks so much. He said, my dad is 76 today, folks. Married 53 years today, too.
Ah.
Congratulations, Dad. Happy birthday and happy anniversary,
Happy birthday, Mr. Thrawn.
Mr. Sooner Throne.
Mr. Sooner Thrawn. No,
And
thanks,
that's
buddy.
what we
Appreciate that,
have.
man.
Thanks
Yeah,
for the super chat.
absolutely. I know we really went heavy with Qimir, as we should have, because Manny Jacinto is fantastic. I haven't seen what's the good side or something? What was that show he's in about the afterlife? Something like
Oh,
that.
Good Place?
Good Place? Yeah.
He's fabulous in that. Have you seen it?
That's the thing. I haven't seen it.
He's so
This
good.
was my first time I think seeing
He
him
kind of
unless
plays
they
a
forgot.
dumb character in that, like a super dumb golden retriever type person. He's like lovable but so stupid.
Yeah, he
Yeah.
really impressed me in this, and I think he's the like, ooh, he's in the top 3 performances so far in this show for me are Lee Jung Jae, Amon Stenberg, and Manny Jacinto.
High
And
five. We're both feeling the same thing.
yeah, that might be all we need because I think all the actors are doing a good job. Like, I just don't like how the Jedi are in this era, and like I'm not trying to ruffle any High Republic feathers or anything like that, but like the opening crawl in this, like sort of equalizes the High Republic a little bit, at least for me, because it's like We
How'd you
keep
feel
getting
about
told
that? It was a lot of text.
it was a lot of text, but I enjoyed it. It
Mm,
felt like it was like Star Wars needs to have that. Like Solo sort of did it.
mhm.
Like Rogue One was too abrupt. It was like, bam, Rogue One. But like with this, it says I wish I had it pulled up, but it says something like 100 years before the fall of the Galactic Republic, it was a time of peace. I'm like, all right, so if it's a time of peace here, then all the High Republic stuff happened, and then before that it was a time of peace. So and then all the
They do
Disney
say time of peace a lot.
and then the showrunners and all the people are saying you don't need to read any of the High Republic books to watch the show. So I'm imagining there's probably and hopefully for High Republic fans things that they can find from an Easter egg perspective or like rewarding, like James used to say, rewarding reading those books because you saw a character name or a certain part of the Jedi Temple or something that stands out to you enough where you'd be like, I remember that. That's cool. And I think that's good because Disney, I don't know how the High Republic books sold or anything like that outside of the bubble of Star Wars fandom. I don't know. I honestly don't know. Disney is probably just like we said with Ahsoka. Like, you guys got to make sure you tell general audiences they don't have to go read 48 books to understand this show. We need them to go in thinking they can watch this show clean, which they can, which was
Mhm,
nice. So I
mhm.
think hopefully everybody is like sort of happy about what we're getting from that perspective, whether it's going in fresh, like you and I have, not reading High Republic, but knowing some of the beats,
Appreciating
or
it for what it
or
is,
the
yeah.
diehards who love High Republic, Kendall Gellner with the robes, everything, like probably pointing out things that maybe I wouldn't have seen as I'm
Mhm.
trying to analyze dialogue, like
But again, that's what makes Star Wars so
Mercer.
awesome. Everybody's
Oh,
a
it's
fan of
amazing.
something.
Yeah,
Yeah,
like I'll be over here
love it.
operating on this, you be over there handling that, and away we go.
John's over
Um,
here analyzing grammar, looking at droids,
is
talking
there?
about
I mean, you
puppets.
were the first one to say that you think Qimir is the guy. We'll see if it
I
ends
just
up being the
love
case.
knowing your background and, like, what you're good at and what your skill set is, like, for you to be like, "I analyzed the grammar." I was correcting an essay while watching this show.
Right. The last things I wanted to point out,
Mhm.
Yord says I have a bad feeling about this, which I liked.
He does,
Um,
yeah.
um, Soul confirming to the audience through telling May that she has no idea who her master is. So when she's in there all those times talking to Qimir, assuming he's the guy, she generally doesn't know. And I like that we understand that May almost like took this leap then to follow
Caught
this
up
person.
caught
Yeah,
up in drama. Mhm.
yeah, she doesn't know who it is. Like that's a grooming, like a very dark thing.
Mhm, mhm.
Very almost like Kira with Crimson Dawn. Like she clearly didn't want to be
Had
there,
no
but she
choice.
had
Survival.
no choice. Yeah.
Mhm.
So there's more darkness to May's story. I'm just curious how it goes
How
because
dark is she?
I know that's the thing. I don't know if I want redemption. I, I could see her like dying to save her sister. That might be how it ends, but I don't want to go too far down the weeds.
Mm,
We're in the first two
mm.
episodes. Here we are. We got to see a little bit of Jonas, a little Kalnaka.
Little Kelnaka, yep.
I liked his little. I wish we had more time. We could spend more time at his little hangout, his little home on
His
Kofar.
little home. That's what I want in Galaxy's Edge.
He's got the
Give
sliding
me give me
door.
give me the home that, like, is a fort that you can, like,
Yeah,
explore.
agreed. Yeah.
Mhm.
So a good seeing Jonas. He uses the force, snaps the blaster in half, and sends those two guys
Who
running.
speak Huttese.
They may very well be spies, and we find that out later because they were speaking
Mhm.
Huttese. Yeah. So a lot of theories, a lot of thoughts. Anything else on episode 2, Lacey?
Not right now, just ready to keep the mystery going.
Yeah. Toying around. Hello there. What's up? Good to see you. Thanks for popping in, guys. You guys are awesome.
Mhm.
Hopefully we see you guys soon.
Mhm.
All right, Lacey, looking ahead to episode 3. You and I aren't gonna talk about it, of course. I didn't see too many speculations, but we did run pretty long here. So
People were
um
very much into your theory with the grammar that, like, I think people aren't ready to know what's next.
we gotta clip that out before other people start. No, I'm just kidding. Oh, my own. All right. So I that's it for me, I think. I mean, there's definitely more that we'll probably touch on as we move forward next week. Which we should have our first guest with us next week, which is cool, which we'll
We
reveal later.
should. We're just so the funny thing is the way it works is, you could lock someone in and then they're like, "Oh, something's come up, sorry." So some weeks we have people locked in already and we're excited to announce them, but we're still getting our last minute person locked in for next week, which we're excited if they end up following through. If not, we
Yeah,
also have
oh,
other people, but
definitely.
we have a bunch of cool people lined up and we're really excited to share them once we get everything pulled together.
Yeah. All right. So we want to thank everybody for listening, watching, and enjoying the first episode of AcoNight, our Acolyte After Show. Thank you so much for making it fun, whether you were in the live chat, whether you sent super chats, whether you're just listening on Apple or Spotify or wherever. Thank you so much. This show, even though it is called AcoNight, the Acolyte After Show, it is on the normal TRB podcast feed. So if you want to go back and listen again, it's right
Mhm.
there for you if you're
Mhm.
subscribed. If you're not subscribed yet, please subscribe. Please rate us 5 stars, hopefully. We really appreciate that very much. And spread the word. Tell your friends about TRB. And as we mentioned, if you're able to support us, Patreon's the way to go. Would be remiss if we didn't give a shout out to our Patreon generals and spice runners. And those are Carmelo, John Reese, Jetta Rosewater, Frank Grande, Nats, Chris Morales, Brian Smith, Danny, Mike Ramori, Brendan McLaughlin, Sneaky Zebra, Dave Hornack, Jolton Jedi DiMaggio, and Colin Cormier. And the spice runners, David Probus, Neil Shaw, Kendall Gellner, Andrew Staley, Jeremy Myers, and the Fort Worthian. And all of our patrons, everyone in the base, we love you. We couldn't do this without you. Thank you so much. This has been a lot of fun, and we look forward to continuing this run on AcoNight. So we want to hear from you. What did you think of this show, this format? Are you excited? And most importantly, we hope you are enjoying the Acolyte, right, Lacey?
100%. Can't wait for more.
Yeah. All right. For me, social media, hit me up on X at Johnny Hoey. That's really where I do my ramblings. And let me know what you think. And let us know what you think in general about this episode. But Lacey, how about you? Where can people hit you up? Because let's not forget, I dove deep, did the analysis. You were the one who told me I think Qimir is the Sith Lord.
Yeah, I remember that. I remember that
Yep.
because I know exactly where I was when I called you for that. I was actually outside in like the wilderness
It's
because I
like
was like,
Vicky
I'm gonna
Vale and
take a walk.
Knox in Batman. It's teamwork.
Yeah, it was just funny because I remember being like, what? And that was the moment you were like, I need to go rewatch. And then I got a, oh, wait a second text later. But yeah, people can find me on social media at Lacey Gillerin and at It's Lacey Gillerin on TikTok. You can also follow us on TRB Podcast on all social channels and at Nerdy and Nice Pod, which is our other podcast, Pop Culture on Mondays. We're putting a lot of stuff, little short videos and whatnot on those channels, and we appreciate you guys sharing those episodes and letting us know how we did. Just like
Yeah.
John said, please leave reviews. We appreciate it. Thank you guys so much.
Yeah. If you aren't aware, we launched a second podcast, like Lacey said, called Nerdy and Nice. It comes out every Mondays. We talk about all the other nerdy franchises and movies and stuff we love, just the way we love Star Wars, but just over there. So Nerdy and Nice. Yeah, for sure. Check it out.
Mm-hmm.
And that's it for us. So we will be back with you on the AcoNight Acolyte After Show live next Wednesday night, 8:30 East, with our guest, with the next Sith code hint, and probably a lot more speculation, among other things, about the Acolyte. So we hope you enjoyed this show. We hope you're loving the Acolyte. And until next time, from us here at TRB, as always, we'll see you around, kids.